Finally, Dragon Ball Super has returned, and with its several questions, a new anime is said by the participants in the announcement, and with the following theme, Galactic Patrol, and with that comes the question, what will be the role of Goten and Trunks in all of this? Get ready for everything, guys. Will the boys finally have more screen time? Get ready, already run and subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and leave your like. Dragon Ball Galactic Patrol has just been announced at the big event that followed on the 25th of January of this year, and the announcement opens many doors and questions, and with it a question that may be killing fans of the young Trunks and Goten with anxiety. Will they have screen time different from the manga? Well, before commenting on this, we need to go straight to the manga and see how the participation of both was there. In the manga, Trunks and Goten do not actively participate in the Galactic Patrol saga Moro saga, and this is a very clear narrative decision on the part of the authors. Throughout the entire saga, the focus remains concentrated on Goku, Vegeta, the Galactic Patrol, Nearest, and the more experienced warriors of Earth, such as Piccolo, Gohan, Android 17, and Majin Buu. Trunks and Goten appear only marginally, in everyday scenes or as part of the general state of Earth, without direct involvement in relevant battles against Moro or his subordinates. There are three main reasons for this in the manga. The first is scale of threat. Moro is not a local invasion villain or a common terrestrial conflict. He is a universal-level threat, dealing with absorption of vital energy, ancient magic, and large-scale manipulation. Narratively, Trunks and Goten are still treated as warriors in formation, without the emotional, strategic, and spiritual control that this saga demands. Putting them on the front line would weaken the coherence of the danger presented. The second reason is narrative space. The Moro saga already introduces many new elements: the Galactic Patrol as a central force, Nearest and his angelic nature, the deepening of Ultra Instinct, Vegeta's journey to Yardrat, and the return of Majin Buu to protagonism. Including Trunks and Goten would require their own development, which would divert the focus from the main axis of the story. The third, and perhaps most important, is the tone of the saga. The Galactic Patrol saga is one of the most mature in Dragon Ball Super. It works with guilt, consequences, sacrifice, and moral limits. Trunks and Goten, in the manga, still represent lightness, youth, and future potential, not the weight of the past and universal responsibility. That is why they are purposely kept out of the center of the conflict. It is worth highlighting that this does not prevent the anime, if it adapts the saga, from expanding small participations. Toei usually adds extra scenes to give more of a sense of a living world, parallel training, or moments of reaction from characters on Earth. But if it follows the manga faithfully, Trunks and Goten will continue without a decisive role in the Moro saga. In summary, in the original manga material, the answer is direct. No, Trunks and Goten do not participate in the Galactic Patrol saga in an active way, and this absence is intentional, coherent with the level of the threat, and with the thematic arc of the story. But then we enter the current scenario of the manga, where there was Goten and Trunks as heroes, and this was after the Moro saga. We have two possible options: Toei adding them during the Moro saga, scenes on the side that would not directly count in the scenes against Moro, and the second option, them bringing the current manga, them in the patrol, but then we would have to wait more time. And so, what do you think? Well, let's talk about these options. Now the conversation gets serious, because when we look at the current scenario of the manga, everything changes shape. After the Moro saga, Dragon Ball did not simply return to the status quo. The manga moved forward, the world moved on, and for the first time in a long time, Goten and Trunks stopped being just promises of the past and became protagonists of an entire arc with their own identity, with more defined personalities, and, most importantly, with a direct connection to the Galactic Patrol. And it is exactly here that the dilemma that Toei will inevitably have to face is born. The Moro saga was written at a time when Goten and Trunks were still narratively frozen. The current manga arc breaks this completely. They grow, gain focus, act as urban heroes, connect with the legacy of the Great Simon, and more importantly, enter the radar of the Galactic Patrol. So the question is not whether Toei will do something with this. The question is when and how. The first option is the most immediate, the safest from a commercial point of view, and the easiest to fit into the schedule. Toei adapting the Moro saga practically as it is in the manga, but adding Goten and Trunks in parallel scenes, outside the central axis of the battle against Moro. This would not mean placing them facing the villain or directly interfering in the main events, but rather showing the world reacting to the threat in a broader way. In this approach, Goten and Trunks could appear on Earth dealing with indirect consequences of the galactic crisis. Energy disturbances, criminals escaping from the galactic prison arriving on the planet, small conflicts that do not justify the presence of Goku or Vegeta, but that are perfect for two young Saiyajins in a phase of maturation. This would create a sense of a living world, something that the anime always does well when it wants to expand the original material. These scenes would serve three very clear functions. The first would be to update the audience on who Goten and Trunks are now, to show that they are no longer naive children, but also are still not warriors at the level of the protagonists. The second function would be to plant narrative seeds, small interactions with the Galactic Patrol, perhaps with Jocko, perhaps with some secondary agent, creating familiarity with this universe without stealing the protagonism of the saga. The third function would be emotional, to show that, while Goku and Vegeta deal with cosmic threats, there is a new generation beginning to assume local responsibilities. This option has a huge advantage. It does not require waiting. The Moro saga can be released relatively quickly, taking advantage of the hype, the expectation, and the impact of the Genkidama Matsuri. The anime returns strong, with a beloved, mature, and respected saga, while calmly preparing the ground for what comes next. The risk here is minimal because Goten and Trunks would not need to carry excessive dramatic weight, just exist in an organic way. On the other hand, this option also has a clear limitation. It does not immediately deliver what many fans now expect, seeing Goten and Trunks as an active part of the Galactic Patrol, with uniform, official mission, and consolidated heroic identity. It is a slow, careful, almost preparatory construction. It works very well narratively, but it requires patience from the audience. The second option is bolder, more ambitious, and, at the same time, riskier. It would be Toei deciding to wait longer, allow the manga to advance even further, and then bring not only the Moro saga, but already connect directly with the current arc, where Goten and Trunks take on a central role as heroes and connect directly with the Galactic Patrol. In this scenario, the Moro saga would function almost like a prologue to a new phase of the anime. It would establish the universal danger, the weight of the Galactic Patrol, and the cost of cosmic decisions. When this saga ended, the anime would not return to light episodes or disconnected stories. It would move forward in time, showing a world that changed after Moro. A world where Goku and Vegeta are more distant, dealing with training and bigger issues, while Earth begins to depend on new heroes. Here, Goten and Trunks would not be just parallel appearances. They would be the center of the narrative. The tone would change, becoming more urban, more everyday, but without losing the connection with the cosmos. The Galactic Patrol would appear not as a distant force, but as something that observes, recruits, and guides. This would create a clear generational transition, something that Dragon Ball has always flirted with doing, but never fully executed. The gain of this option is enormous in terms of freshness. It would deliver something truly new in the anime, something that would not be just a faithful adaptation of the old manga, but the consolidation of the current phase of the franchise. Goten and Trunks would definitively stop being the sons of and become complete characters, with their own conflicts, their own mistakes, and their own victories. But the cost of this choice is also high. Waiting longer means cooling down the immediate hype of the Moro saga. It means holding back the return of the anime in the name of longer-term planning. And Dragon Ball, as a global product, needs to balance art and market. Excessive waiting can generate negative anxiety, uncontrolled speculation, and loss of timing. The smartest scenario, looking at it coldly, is that Toei does not choose only one of these options in an absolute way. The most likely outcome is a hybrid strategy, where the Moro saga comes first, with punctual additions of Goten and Trunks in parallel, and after the end of the saga, the anime transitions almost immediately to the current arc, without a long hiatus. In this way, the construction is continuous. The audience understands who Goten and Trunks are, reconnects with them little by little, and when they finally take on protagonism, this feels natural, deserved, and organic. This respects the manga, respects the production time, and respects the viewer. It does not force characters into a saga where they do not belong, but it also does not ignore the evolution they have already had. It is Dragon Ball looking backward and forward at the same time. At the end of the day, the most important thing is to understand that Goten and Trunks are no longer disposable cards. The manga itself made that clear. Whether in parallel scenes during the Moro saga or as full protagonists in the following arc, they are part of the future of the franchise. Toei's decision is not whether it will use them, but how to present this transition without breaking the soul of Dragon Ball. And if this transition is well done, the Moro saga will not be just the return of the anime. It will be the turning point that connects the era of gods, angels, and universal threats with the next generation of heroes who will carry this legacy forward. Goten and Trunks stop being characters frozen in time and begin to occupy a function that Dragon Ball had been avoiding assuming for years: real generational continuity. For a long time, the two existed only as narrative potential, always too strong to be children, but too immature for protagonism. The Moro saga, combined with the current manga arc, breaks this deadlock definitively. Until Moro, Goten and Trunks were trapped in a paradox. They had power, lineage, and past feats, such as the fusion against Fu, but they had no dramatic space. Goku and Vegeta solved everything, and the universe demanded nothing from them. With Moro's threat and, especially, with the consequences of this arc, the world of Dragon Ball changes. The universe begins to demand continuous response, not just occasional saviors. This creates the perfect space for the two to grow. The first impact is identity. The arc in which Goten and Trunks act as heroes shows that they finally gain a role that does not depend on the shadow of Goku or Vegeta. They make mistakes, improvise, try to protect ordinary people, deal with smaller but constant consequences. This is fundamental because it builds character. They stop being weapons stored for extreme crises and become active protectors of daily life. For the future of Dragon Ball Super, this means they can carry stories without needing to immediately escalate to divine level. The second impact is structural. With Goku and Vegeta increasingly involved with training outside Earth, gods, angels, and cosmic threats, a narrative vacuum emerges. Before, this vacuum was filled by light episodes or simply ignored. Now, it can be occupied by Goten and Trunks. They become the intermediate line of defense of Universe 7. They are not gods, they are not angels, but they are also not civilians. This creates a new tier of possible stories within Dragon Ball Super. The third impact lies in the evolution of power. Goten and Trunks were always associated with fusion as a shortcut. This harmed them narratively because fusion solved everything too quickly and prevented individual growth. The current scenario allows something different. They can evolve separately, develop their own styles, and, only later, use fusion as a strategic choice, not as a crutch. This completely changes the public's perception of the two and opens space for new forms, techniques, and combat approaches that do not need to copy Goku and Vegeta. The fourth impact is emotional and thematic. Dragon Ball has always talked about surpassing limits, but rarely showed what happens after the limit is surpassed. Goten and Trunks represent this question. They were born in a saved world, but now live in a world that knows it can end at any moment. This contrast creates more human stories closer to the audience, without losing the essence of the franchise. They do not carry the trauma of the destruction of Planet Vegeta nor the weight of the Tournament of Power, but they carry the responsibility of maintaining the peace that was achieved. Finally, the most important impact is symbolic. By unlocking Goten and Trunks, Dragon Ball Super signals that it does not intend to end its story only with Goku. The future of the franchise becomes shared. Goku continues to be the axis, Vegeta continues to be the counterpoint, but the world no longer revolves only around them. This allows Dragon Ball to grow without needing to restart everything or force abrupt substitutions. In other words, Goten and Trunks stopped being stagnant characters because the universe stopped allowing stagnation. From this point on, the future of Dragon Ball Super gains depth, breathing room, and real possibilities of continuity. They do not replace Goku and Vegeta, but they ensure that, when the focus needs to change, the franchise does not need to invent heroes from scratch. They are already there, ready to take over when the story demands it.